To effect real and lasting change, we need government support and commitment. We're therefore fortunate to work with a minister who's prepared to listen to the issues and is generous with her time. This has been evidenced over recent months through her recommendations and support, which have enhanced the prospect of a partnership with Victoria University. The Honourable Minister Melissa Horne is the Minister for Gaming and Liquor Regulation, Consumer Affairs, Ports and Freight, and Fishing and Boating, and the member for Williamstown in the Andrews Labor government. Prior to being appointed as the Minister for Public Transport, immediately following the 2018 Victorian election, she was a Public Affairs Executive Director in the Victorian Public Service. The Minister has enjoyed a long career at senior levels of government and corporate organisations where she's overseen projects and policies which have helped change lives for the better. She moved to Melbourne's western suburbs in late 1990s, where she lives with her partner and her 2 teenage sons. Minister, I invite you to turn on your mic and camera and join us as the keynote speaker at our event today.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And I'm just trying to start my video, but the host has stopped it. There we go. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak here today and for your very generous words, Melissa. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also acknowledge Wurundjeri Elder Auntie Georgina Nicholson and thank her for her warm welcome to country. Thank you too. There's a couple of my colleagues that I believe who are in attendance today. Sarah Connolly, the member for Tarneet, and Katie Hall, the member for Footscray. Also to Dr. Heather Holst, our Commissioner for Residential Tenancies, who I do a lot of work with, and thank her for her advocacy in this space. And Professor Lydia Xenos, Dean College of Law and Justice at Victoria University. Again, as I said, thank you so much for the invitation to speak today. And thank you very much for the important work that you do delivering those legal services to people living in Melbourne's western suburbs. International students are valued members of our community. On average, we welcome more than 200,000 students from more than 170 countries to study in Victoria each year. In 2019 to 20 financial year, international education generated more than $12.5 billion for the economy and supported thousands of jobs. And whilst there aren't as many international students at the moment due to COVID-19, these students, I am confident, will return. And when they return, it's so important that we have that safe and secure housing for them. Because international student alumni go on to become the economic, political and cultural leaders, and their networks create lasting relationships for Victoria, including vital global research, trade and business links. Our international students also add to the rich social fabric of this state with languages, food, celebration, knowledge, friendships and connections. And we live in a much more special place because of it. These students deserve the very same access to safe and secure housing as all Victorians. As you'd be aware, the WEstjustice report highlights the kind of problems that these students may face when trying to find a safe place to live. The report states that a growing number of students don't know whether their lease is secure and could face the possibility of being unfairly evicted. In some cases, it was found bonds are either not being lodged or not being returned once the lease is ended. Property and lease terms can be misrepresented, and some students are being deliberately deceived. The report also states that international students don't always have access to the right information or support services and can be reluctant to exercise their legal rights, fearing possible consequences. The Victorian Government recognised the challenges international students are facing in the housing sector, and we're working hard to change this. A major focus for this government has been to tackle the problems with the Victorian rental market. In March, we rolled out the largest set of reforms to the Residential Tenancies Act ever undertaken in Victoria. This saw more than 130 reforms come into effect, clarifying the rights and responsibilities of renters and providers for a range of tenancy types, including private rentals and rooming houses. And these reforms will be important in setting right some of the problems international students face. They include things like the introduction of minimum standards for rental properties to make sure that Victorians live in safe housing. Changes to the reason a renter can be evicted so that providers can no longer evict a renter without a valid reason. It prohibits private rental providers from using false or deceptive representations to encourage someone else to sign a lease, and requiring providers to reveal important information about a property before a renter signs an agreement. It also too prohibits providers from asking certain questions in a rental application, such as asking a renter to disclose any previous disputes with a past provider or deductions from bonds. And as well, it's clarifying reporting obligations for building owners or their agents who have a reason to believe or should be aware their building is being used as an unregistered rooming house. The WEstjustice report also highlights the importance of monitoring and enforcing rental laws. Fair and safe housing, particularly ensuring compliance with new rental laws for vulnerable renters and residents, is a regulatory priority for Consumer Affairs Victoria this year. I'm also pleased to confirm that international students are eligible to access the COVID-19 rent relief grants established by the Victorian Government. The program is designed to provide financial support to renters who have lost their income due to COVID-19 and are experiencing rental hardship. For this information, it's available on the housing website, and I would encourage people to visit that. We want a fair, safe, and secure housing system for all Victorians, including our community of international students. Living in unsafe conditions and worrying about being kicked out of your home without a good reason is simply unacceptable. And the Victorian Government recognises international students face problems with housing, and we're working to set it right. The residential tenancy reforms will be important tools in addressing these issues, but we acknowledge there is much more to do in this space. So thank you again, WEstjustice, for putting together this important report, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Minister. We're really pleased to hear the government's response to these issues and your prioritisation, and we look forward to meeting with you to discuss our collective response over the coming months.